Thank you for coming. Welcome to the January 24th council meeting. I'm shown at 7:35 p.m. Ms. Sarcisi, will you call the roll?
Mr. Barker.
Here.
Ms. Darrow.
Here.
Mr. Engel.
Here.
Mr. Martin. Here. Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Molnar.
Here. Very good. I would like to ask our council president, Ken Martin, to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and after which I would like to ask Rita Darrow to say tonight's invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lord, let me know myself and let me know you. Grant that we may do your work. Please watch over us as we move forward in this new year to make the city a better place to live and to raise our families. Please watch over our armed forces and their family here at home and abroad. Amen. And I would also like to thank everyone that attended and sent thoughts and prayers to my boyfriend David and I for his mom, Miss Barbara Milstein. Thank you.
I'd like to also add before we sit down that I want to welcome back David Engel. He suffered a terrible loss in his family. Many of us knew Fran, your wife. She was an exceptional woman. We're going to miss her greatly. And I'd like just to have a brief moment of silence. Think about Fran. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Mayor, before we go on, may I say something?
Absolutely, Dave.
I would like to thank you, Ken, for those kind words. I'd like to express my thanks to everyone on council who came to pay respects, to Rita who brought food, to Josephine, to the many directors who came. I appreciate all your support. Thank you.
All right, moving on. Next is the minutes from December 13, 2012 and January 10, 2012. Do I have a motion? Do I have changes? Would you like to accept?
So made.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Mayor, I need to abstain from January 10.
So noted. Okay, next part of our meeting is...
Mr. Mayor?
Yes?
I'm sorry I keep interrupting. I need to make a motion to acknowledge the receipt of the Macedonia financial report for December 2012.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
I'll be quiet now, Mr. Mayor, for
That's all right.
for several
Anytime.
minutes, I hope.
Anytime, Dave. All right, the next section of the meeting is public comments. In order to speak, we ask you to sign in. We have quite a few people who would like to speak tonight. So remember that we have a 5-minute limit, and I will be timing. So first on the list tonight is John Kasmer. Don't worry, John, I start after you start talking.
I'm a little slow getting up here.
That's okay.
Thanks. Good evening. Good evening. I've got 6 points I want the city to hear and the residents to hear, and I've got 5 minutes, so I'm going to talk fast, and I have it written down. First of all, Longwood Manor Historical Society is an incorporated nonprofit organization. We exist whether the city recognizes us as a voluntary group or not. Our purpose is to preserve the history of Macedonia and the Longwood Manor. We're a viable group that has complied with Ordinance 11, 2012, which I'm not going to get into. Longwood Manor members are 100% unpaid volunteers who have spent countless hours over the years on the manor. Number 2. We have a right to seek legal counsel on legal questions regarding the manor, as does any private citizen or group in this country. We sent another request for information to the city. this time requesting they produce the condemnation order on the house. We've never seen it. We've asked for it. It's supposed to be public information. Because of that, we question whether it exists. Number 3, the state requirement on change of use will be addressed if we get an extension as we've been requesting since December. Council hasn't taken any action yet. We have retained an architect. His name is David Smith. He's done work in the city. He knows how to do these types of plans. He's like the Fikes. He's like Fike Construction. He has made his costs reasonable to us so that we can afford them, as the Fikes have. We now have a couple contractors and an architect in that classification. So we appreciate it. Thanks. Thanks to David Smith also. Number 4, at the last council meeting, Council President Martin said he offered at Longwood Manor $300,000 for the manor repairs. We take that as a public acknowledgement that the city of Macedonia is responsible to maintain the house. I said at that time it would be wonderful if they would do that. But instead they had just passed an ordinance a few months before making us, a nonprofit group of volunteers, responsible for the repairs. That's scapegoating, in our opinion. Number 5, the city needs to honor its responsibility to the mayor, to the mayor's will, and repair the violations on its property, just as the city demands the residents do on their property. And you certainly don't need our permission to do that, or say you're offering anything. We're all for it. Lastly, number 6, the city already has an endowment for this house. The city already has an endowment for this house. The endowment is the 300 acres of land that they acquired along with the Longwood Manor which they accepted in the mayor's will in 1984. The service department uses the farm buildings. There was no construction expense for those buildings. The city built a recreation center, a very good recreation center on the land that they wouldn't otherwise have had. They probably would have had to buy land. I doubt if anyone else would have donated the acreage required for the rec center. There would have been no park and playing fields now for the residents to use. All of this we have because one man, our first mayor, gave this to us for free. He could have willed everything to his son, who was still alive then. He didn't do that. He wanted the residents of Macedonia to have it and to enjoy his house. Thank you.
John, could you please state your address, please? I forgot.
849 Chinook Trail.
Okay, thank you. All right, next on the list this evening is Sylvia Hannigan. Sylvia?
Sylvia Hannigan, Hampton Drive, Macedonia. I'd like to comment tonight on 2 things. One is Ordinance 10, 2013, which basically is an attempt to regulate, or perhaps, and as I understood, at least in the first draft I have seen, is to prohibit the use of video recording during work sessions. Now I know during the work session tonight there's been some discussion about revisions. I'm just going to speak to the general issue then. Ohio has an Open Meetings Act and it has a Public Records Act, all of which are based on the premise that I'm going to quote from an Ohio Supreme Court Justice, Charles Zimmerman. The rule in Ohio is that public records are the people's records, and the officials in whose custody they happen to be are merely trustees for the people. That's kind of the standard for which Ohio approaches everything. And there's another quote here, which is also in the Yellow Book, from James Madison, one of our founding fathers. A popular government without popular information and the means of acquiring it is but a prologue to a farce or a tragedy. Let me quote from the Public Records Open Meetings and the Open Meetings Act, audio and video recording. A public body cannot prohibit the public from audio or video recording of a public meeting. Now, not only is it fairly clear that you can't prohibit it, but certainly you can regulate it. For example, someone could not be standing right there and taking a video, but as long as it's unobtrusive, it should not be an issue. I think that the benefits from the recordings that I've been making and routinely putting on the macivic.org website for the work sessions is that people see the actual discussion of the legislation, and they see what the opinions are behind the legislation and what people are saying about legislation. So not only is it the law that we shouldn't be prohibiting it, but it's actually a benefit to the people. So that was my thought on that. Now going to a second issue, and that relates to the Simon Kaplan property that has been rezoned to R2. And I posted something to the Mac Civic website today about that. What I've been able to discover, because I went out on this Common Pleas Court website, is that the city of Macedonia agreed to a rezoning from R1 to R2 without a vote of the people. They did it as part of a court settlement that they agreed to with Simon Kaplan and Macedonia investors. Now, I think everybody who was there knows that, and I think anybody in the Planning Commission probably knew that. But that is why we're in the position we are to have to entertain this at this point. There was a vote in 2000 on that same property to change it from R1 to RSC, which is senior citizens housing. And that was approved in the whole city, but denied in that precinct. And according to the kind of rezoning from R1 that we have in our charter, that basically means that it didn't pass. So we never had R2 in the discussion. That was a concession that we made during this court case that went on, and a negotiated settlement occurred. I don't know what prevails in this situation, but I will tell you this. I've talked to a lot of people today about this, and they're telling me that the whole discussion on this was really behind closed doors, and they got very little out of it after the settlement that had occurred. I think that we owe it to the people, because we basically have referendum zoning with regard to R1. We owe it to the people to kind of explain what happened here and why we're looking at rental units being put in an area of the city, which is basically R1 zoning south of there. So that's my comments for tonight. Thank you.
All right, moving on to Jan Radigan.
Good evening. I'm Jan Radigan. I live on 1122 Ledge Road. I've been a resident of this town for 27 years. I've been a stay-at-home mom, which has always given me the opportunity to be a volunteer for anything. Basically, I volunteered for the schools, for Cub Scouts, for the Little Leagues, baseball, basketball. My husband was a coach for the NBA, so we've always been part of the community. After the kids graduated, I thought of starting my own business and went to the Business Expo at the high school. That is where I met Kathy Thomas. She's hard to say no to, and she asked me to become a member of Longwood Manor. And I thought this was a great opportunity to give back to the city and continue my volunteer work. As long as I got to paint and do grunt work, so you got a great person to help you. All I wanted to do was learn about the manor and the man, Mr. Long. I didn't get a chance to paint until last year, though. The house was condemned, and we continued to do our interviews and work on grants. There are no books, there are no classes or manuals on how to save a manor house. We did the best that we could. After all, we're all volunteers. A lot of good that happens in a city comes from volunteers, but they don't get paid, and they're rarely appreciated and often criticized. I was asked to tell you about some of the people that volunteered, and quite frankly, there's a lot. I don't have enough time to tell you about them. The main one that I came up with was Kathy Thomas. Without her, it wouldn't be here right now. The creators of the Longwood Manor website, they want to remain anonymous, but they built it, they paid for it, and they maintain it. Casa D'Angelo's, the Dollhouse, and other people have been financially supportive toward us. Howard Hanna, Macedonia Glass, Sherwin-Williams, Jackson Heating and Cooling, local restaurants, Fike Builders, Philip Mayfarth family, they've given us donations, and I did an interview with him, in fact, and found out that his family donated Sugarbush Park to Macedonia. In fact, his house is built on the rock from the quarry there. Other volunteers were Bob Hopkins, Heritage Ohio, the Hen Mansion Society, CHIPS, an organization for historical societies, Steve Noem, the Cleveland State students did a semester on the restoration of the manor. Reed Smucker from the Smuckers Corporation came here and looked at it and said it would be a tragedy to take it down. Danny and Jim Streb donated days of yard work. Young people like Waleed and other adults wanted to help but had to be turned away because of their age. A class of interior designers wanted to help and get involved as well. A lady and her niece from New Orleans came by and took over 1,500 photographs. Okay, our big event, okay, we had to make money. And again, we're volunteers. We're not very well trained at doing this stuff, but we did our best. Our big event was a Tie Yourself into History raffle at Chinese raffle at Panini's. The donations for that event were from Northfield Track, Kitchener's Lighting, George Shuba, who is a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame photographer, and he donated a print of the Beatles. There were donations of computer software and their services. Wild Republic gave us cartons of toys. Barnum Beauty gave us baskets of beauty baskets. A poster was donated from a director that shot a film that was shot in Cleveland and was autographed by actors. Mike Olszewski, our local author, donated 2 of his books. I came to the event to sign them. We received a gift certificate from a local psychic, who we probably could use now. Longwood Manor contributed, the Longwood Manor contributed an article to be auctioned off, was a Christmas tree tie skirt, which was actually one of my things that I started. It was made from neckties from notable gentlemen. What we did was we asked gentlemen to send us their neckties, and we made a tie skirt out of it. The people that gave us ties were Jim Brickman, Edward Cochran, Fred Griffith, Robert J. Keegan, he's the executive chairman of the board of Goodyear Tire and Rubber, Steve LaTourette, Kurt Lobinger, Lou Maglio, Bill Martin, Tom Meyer, Michael Olszewski, Dominic Ozan, Lil John Rinaldi, the late John Rizzo, he was awarded the Purple Heart here and married by Mayor Long in the Manor House, Dick Russ, Sam Ratigliano, Jeff Saunders, our own journalist, Kevin Senagul Scarpino, Big Chuck Shadowski, Ricky Smith, he's the director of the Cleveland Hopkins International Airport, Michael Stanley, Captain Tony Tarantino, he's a goodwill ambassador of the Lake County Captains, Bob Houlihan Wells, you will remember him as Bob Houlihan the weatherman, I guess, Dave Whitman, and Ken Yankee. In conclusion, I feel that the Manor House is a viable and unique structure and that all people can use it all year round. Thank you for the opportunity, and I think my shelf life as a volunteer is almost up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, next on the list is Deb Mikulski.
Good evening. I live on Cranbrook in Northfield Village. Mayor Cookton and Council, my reasons for saving Longwood Manor is many-faceted, but as an educator, the house can be instrumental in creating a destination for local students, especially grade 4, to fulfill the nationwide Common Core that all across the United States is going into effect in different progressions. The curriculum standards for social studies for this Common Core is a local history and local government can be highlighted through this historical development with connections to Summit County, Ohio, and the United States. Students would explore the rights and responsibilities of citizens like Mayor Long and his predecessors, and such civic concepts as power, equality, justice, and citizenship. Scaffolding this learning will help 7th and 8th graders with the foundation for the social histories that they must learn in the Common Core. The house and grounds can be used by local school children to explore endangered species and wildlife in the park and explore the property. The manor can be developed and open to the public, which acquires, conserves, researches, communities, and exhibits for purposes of study, education, and enjoyment. The tangible and intangible evidence of people and their environment, if you will, a narrative of the people who live there, and tells a historic story of the area's social class and historic period from which it was built. The architecture, late Tudor style, is not common in this area, and the latest in modern design was used by Mayor Long. The woodwork and craftsmanship is still very evident and beautiful in the residence. Senior citizens would be able to meet in this facility with accommodating entrance and lavatories currently there. Small meetings and receptions would be held in the gardens, patio, library, and dining room. I have had to use Twinsburg, Atwater, Stowe, and Bedford's community rooms for baby showers, bridal showers, and graduations. The Manor House has hosted Christmas celebrations and fall festivals in the past. Volunteers are the foundation of the community, and we have tried using thousands of hours to create a reception museum from the Colonel's gift to the people of Macedonia and Nordonia Hills communities. How can a mayor and council treat its best resources, volunteers, for the benefit of the community? No amount of fundraising was going to help when it has been stated over and over that it would come down. No one would throw support in it if they thought it was useless. Was Mayor Long's intent of this gift to be argued about? The city has used parts of the property, created the Field of Dreams, the two golf, and the recreation center. The bad luck will stop when the city accepts the house and property gift and gives back to the people a quiet, contemplative area of recreation. Thank you very much.
Okay. Next on the list this evening is Dan Havlicek.
My name is Dan Havlicek. I live on Shepherd Road. I wear this hat today to remind every single one of you men and women why you're here and why you're free and why you can do what you want to do. We did it. We did it. Now, to get to the mayor, to get to the Mayor Long. I don't know if any of you knew, but that man served more than anyone in this room did. He served in not one, but 2 world wars. The man was enlisted in the Army in 1917. He was commissioned a captain in the Army. The Army became the Army Air Force. He was a fighter pilot in World War I. He commanded his own squadron in World War I. He saw many deaths, and he saw many injuries, and he saw much destruction. The man was also, what was Mayor Long? Well, Mayor Long was a businessman, successful, owned his own business. Mayor Long was a successful farmer, beekeeper, many of you don't know. Mayor Long was someone who believed in service, because Mayor Long was recalled in 1941, after he served in World War I, recalled to the United States to serve again. In this case, he served in a civilian capacity, although he was still a colonel. He served in a civilian capacity, and he served the United States until the end of World War II. How many in this room can say they've done that? And I can't. The man came out of World War II, and he decided he wanted to do more. So he was involved in many things that happened in Macedonia. He made Macedonia, Macedonia. He made the city what it is, what it was then. Okay? The only building remaining in Macedonia at the moment is the Longwood Manor. If we tear it down, that's the last historic building in the city. The manor house was a generous gift by the first mayor, William Frew Long, along with the 3,000 acres of land to the city of Macedonia and its residents, to be maintained by the city for the residents. Again, for the residents. The benefits we all enjoy on this recreation, the benefits we all enjoy are the recreation center, the 2-club golf course, the soccer fields, the baseball diamonds, and all the rest. St. Timothy's was one of his beneficiaries. He put the deed for their 5 acres in the collection basket when he went to St. Timothy's. That's why St. Timothy's is there. They couldn't afford the land. The mayor also had great relationships with the YMCA. So what did he do? When the YMCA came into Macedonia and asked to get some property, they couldn't afford what it cost for the kind of place they wanted to put up. Well, guess what? That old man came to their rescue and gave them the land that the YMCA now sits on. So the rec center is a gift of that old man. The YMCA, the 2-club golf course, the soccer and baseball fields. The man served until 1984. Well, he served, actually, he wasn't mayor till 84, but he served. And when he did pass away, he was the oldest Air Force officer in the United States. He was also the longest serving mayor in the country, as everyone knows. Colonel Long was overwhelmingly elected mayor in '62 at the age of 82. How many of us are going to be able to do what he did at 82? How many of us will be here at 82? He was reelected without opposition in '65 and again in '67. One day he was asked, "Mayor, why are you printing up what's necessary for the newsletters?" out of his own pocket. The mayor stated, "I have a paid salary of $1,800 a year, and that just about covers the cost of the letters that he mailed. So that $1,800 a year came out of the mayor's pocket." Some might say, well, he was a millionaire. He didn't have to do that. He did it. He was also a beekeeper. He said he learned a lot from bees. A lot of us may be able to learn a lot from bees if we studied them. He was also, as I said, a successful farmer. He tended to his farm. It was successful. He made money by it. Okay. He had a soft spot, as I said, for the YMCA, giving them their land, St. Timothy's. He was 96 years old when he retired as mayor. How many of us would even want the job if we could live to be 96, to take on the responsibilities of a city? I don't think many people in this room would do that. But he did it. He lived to be 104 years old, and he did much good for this city. To tear down his mansion and bulldoze it and say, "We don't care," is like spitting in that man's face. And I can't imagine a mayor or a council that would even consider such a terrible thing. And by the way, I should mention, because I've polled all of you, none of you served in the military, okay? Those of us who have served, again, that's why I wear this hat, know what it's like to serve something better and bigger than yourselves, because that's what we all have done. And I have served the Navy for 35 years. I'm proud to say that, and I'm angry and a little bit saddened that this even comes up, okay? It shouldn't have come up. And I think that we owe it to that man to do it. And as Mr. Kasmer said, we want to get an architect, but we don't have the money. We're an organization who's all volunteers. We've tried to get the money, but we haven't. We were told it would cost between $1,000 and $2,000 to have a professional architect do the plans that we are supposed to need to send down to the State House. I am asking that the members of this council consider funding us for that, to get an architect to do the plans right, and then give us the 18 months that we desperately need to keep this manor house standing. It will be a pillar. The people of Northfield Village, the people of Northfield Township love their Palmer House. And I've talked to members on both of those groups. They are very proud of their Palmer House. I ask you citizens and you council, let us restore the manor and let us have something that Macedonia is centered on. That's our legacy. Everyone here. I'm not going to go on any farther, even though I probably have more time, because this is a very emotional thing for me. But as I said, I believe strongly that we owe this man a great deal. And again, if it hadn't been for us, none of us would be here. We might be talking German or Japanese or Korean or Chinese or something else. We made it possible, ladies and gentlemen. We served. We believed in something bigger than ourselves, and still do. That's all I've got. Thank you.
I want to point out something.
Yes.
Mr. Havlicek, both of my sons served in Iraq.
That's commendable.
That's my first son, Hugh.
That's
His
commendable.
Humvee was hit by a roadside bomb, and he was going to be awarded a Purple Heart, but they decided to turn it down because they did not feel that their injuries were significant enough. My second son served in Iraq, and my second son was party to 2 explosions and an attack while he was manning a Humvee. My uncle served in the Korean War. My father served in World War II. My grandfather served in World War I. Some of us could not serve because of physical limitations that we have, because for one reason or another, we weren't allowed. But to somehow imply that those of us who haven't served in the military somehow aren't worthy, I don't think that that is a particularly an appropriate thing to do.
Oh, I don't think he meant that.
That wasn't the intention at all.
Because both of my sons, if you can imagine, in 2004, when he was in Iraq, and my other son in 2008, when he was in Iraq, if you don't think that my wife and I went through some very stressful periods.
I'm sure you did.
And I tell you what, there's a whole group of kids out there right now who are coming home from that war, and they have done 2 and 3 and 4 missions. They've been out there in those campaigns, and these people, they deserve all the accolades in the world. They deserve all the help, and that's why, Mr. Havlicek, I'm in agreement with you that we need to really recognize our veterans. We really need to reward them, and we need never to forget about them.
Never.
Thank you.
And Mr. Martin, I should point out that our family has served since the Revolutionary War. Okay? We've served in the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, the World War I, the Spanish-American War, World War II. My father was in the Navy in World War II. All my uncles were in the Navy in World War II. We served in Korea. My brother served in Vietnam. I served during Vietnam. Okay? I didn't see combat, but that wasn't by my choice. That was by the Navy's choice. Okay? I know what it's like. I was almost recalled twice for Desert Storm 1 and Desert Storm 2. My boss called me and said, pack your sea bag and get ready, because if they need you, you're going.
You know, Mr. Havlicek, I would have loved to have seen, I would have sicked you on the Iraqis. I bet you would have made them.
Trust me, I'm a black flag person when it comes to the enemies of the United States. Now, you 2 attorneys may not like that, but I am a strong believer in the America first, last, and always. Okay? If that makes me a bad American, I'm sorry. But those of us who have served, and by the way, my son was sent to Bosnia and Herzegovina. Okay, he is a lieutenant colonel in the Air Force. He was sent there to evaluate the B-2 bomber when it first went into service. Okay, that was a very dangerous place to be during the Bosnian War. They were shooting at everybody.
Thank
we
you.
prayed also,
Thank you,
Mr. Martin.
Havlicek.
God bless them.
Mr. Mayor, may I ask Mr. Havlicek a question?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
I'm not going to get into such a long...
I apologize. Maybe I'm long-winded.
No. All right. The cost for the architect is somewhere between $1,000 and $2,000?
We were told, yes,
All
sir.
right. How much funds do you guys have available?
We got about $1,000
All
right now.
Here's what I'm going to do, because I don't want this to die on the vine for want of $1,000. I keep getting checks from the city. I don't ask for the checks.
I know, sir.
Well, I
Very
ask
much-
for my paychecks.
That's
But-
fair.
Thank you, but these are checks because I don't take insurance.
Yes, sir.
I look at them, I get mad, I throw them on my counter, and I haven't cashed any of them. I'm gonna cash them, and I'll make up the difference between your 1,000 and the other 1,000.
Very commendable, sir.
Is that agreeable?
That's agreeable,
Go
I'm
get
sure.
the architect.
And that's
you
very
know what I'll do,
commendable.
and you know what I'll do, Mr. Havlicek? I don't get as many checks as Mr. Engel.
We
He
won't
works
argue
for-
about
he
that.
works he works for a big insurance company. But at any rate, I'll contribute $100 of my own money so you can get an architect, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Based on your passionate speech.
Oh, and by the way, sir, my wife and I have contributed $150. We're going to do more this year, assuming you give us the 18 months we need. We're going to do more.
Go get
I'm
the
retired.
architect, we'll talk.
Yeah. By the way, did you take Visa?
I wouldn't take Martin's visa if it's the
I'm
last
not,
visa
I'm
on
not
law.
going there. Mr. Engel, I'm not going there.
You're a wise man.
Thank you again.
Next on the list is Rose Casmer.
Hey, Rose, I'm sorry, 100 is my limit tonight, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. As you might have guessed, our group is so intent upon not seeing this manor house taken down that we've sort of staged a talk-in. People have sit-ins, but we're having, I guess what you'd say, is a talk-in tonight. My name is Rose Casmer. My husband is John Casmer, and I live on Chinook Trail in Macedonia. I just want to give my own personal reasons why I'd like to see the manor house saved. When I first came to Macedonia, it was a small village, and it didn't seem to have a whole lot of sense of community, but there was a thing in the paper about coming to the manor house, and they were going to have a Christmas party, and this was sponsored by the Manor Association. And I have always loved Tudor homes. I mean, that is my favorite type of architecture. When I first came here, I worked downtown at Cleveland State. Cleveland State has like the Math or Mash, and there's Fenn Hall, there's a university club. They all have all this great woodwork in it, and they're beautiful buildings. Well, I like the Manor House for this reason. I had a friend that lived in Lakewood. She lived on Lake Avenue, and they have a lot of Tudor homes there. They have Tudor homes in Shaker Heights. And I just found this unusual to find this type of Tudor home out in a rural area. And then after I got more involved with the Manor House, I learned that the first mayor actually lived in Cleveland, and he moved here for his country home, just like Firestones did, places in Brecksville, and also Mr. Eaton. So I just think it's a really nice piece of art. It's unique, it's unusual, and so what are we going to do with this piece of art? You know, other than just like people like me that like to look at this type of home. It to me could be a place, an extension to the recreation center where people have these small parties, you have receptions, that type of things. It's kind of like a unique landmark. It used to be part of the symbol of Macedonia. Now we replaced it with progress and buildings, but I don't really think that, you know, you're going to be able to replace anything like this. It's, you know, it was built with walls, you know, 6 or 7 inches thick. You know, you had the plasters to put up the wood laths, and then they laid plaster over it. And it's just a fun place to be. So I like it from that standpoint. I see the connection between it and Stan Heward. It's an historical era. There are farmhouses in Macedonia, but you don't find this type of, you know, city-type looking home in a rural set, what was then a rural setting. Now it's in a suburb. So I just encourage every one of you to, you know, allow us to have this extension. The mayor has asked the Manor Association to work on putting a tax revenue on the ballot, okay? I don't think, and I'm not real sure, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't think we as a nonprofit organization can do that, okay? If the mayor and the city administration put this on the ballot, then I do everything I could to ask people to support it financially. But I think there might be other options, such as, you know, Macedonia doesn't put out too many fines that I'm aware of. It doesn't have a reputation for being a city that tickets everybody that's going. You know, you could have like Macedonia Ticket Day, where everybody, you know, you had your police bring in more money through fines, whatever. You know, that's kind of silly, but I think there's other ways you can raise revenue. So that's all I have to say, and thank you.
Mrs. Casimir, our prosecutor's there. You may want to talk to her.
Okay. Next on the list is Mark. Mark Zelesnik.
Hi, Mark Zelesnik, 1416 Elizabeth Lane. I like Macedonia. Lived here almost 4 decades. A lot of discussion about restoring the manor house. I just have one question. How would Macedonia benefit by tearing it down? Thanks.
All right. That concludes our public comments for this evening. I don't think you had any argument with anything that was said. Thanks for a good history lesson, Dan. I never knew half those things that you said, and I've lived here a long time. Somebody ought to put that into print. The Colonel did give 300 acres, not 3,000, just so everyone's aware of that. And we do have a historical building in Macedonia, another one, and it's an amazing story. It's on the corner of Route 8 and Route 82. It's the building that's the electric building there. That building was the North Ohio Power Company, and the Interurban Railroad ran right down Route 8, and that was a train station where people got on it. One of the things that was touched upon here tonight was funding, and funding is the problem as we go forward. So there's not really a...
Your time's not up, is it, Mary?
Yeah, my time's up, so I guess I got to stop. Very good. So funding is the problem. And when you have funding, you always have to deal with priorities. And other sources of revenue, boy, I'll tell you what, Rose, we'd love to find them because we keep looking for them constantly. I don't think there was anybody here that had any argument about the fact that that is a historical building and that it is an asset to have a beautiful historical building. The point tonight that we have to keep in mind is how do we get from point A to point B and get it to be that building? And that would require more money than the city has in order to do that, because it would have to be done at the sacrifice of some other services. Right now, we still don't have enough. Right now, we still don't have enough police. Right now, we could use more equipment. Right now, I could name you road after road after road after road that needs repairs. All right, so prioritizing is the reason we were brought to this point, not because we don't think the house is worth it. You talk about selling the Thai tree. I remember selling a tree for $125 to donate to the manor house that had spark plugs, wrenches, all those things on it. So, but those aren't enough to get us where we get to that point B. I don't think anybody here doesn't want point B. The problem is, how do we get there? Moving on, let's talk about pending or new legislation, starting with ordinance number 99-2012.
Mayor, I'd like to offer ordinance number 99-2012 for its third reading by title only.
Second.
An ordinance, I don't need that. Thank you. An ordinance requiring that all new all new ordinances and resolutions brought before council of the city of Macedonia include A, identification of the originator of the ordinance and or resolution, and B, identification of a member of council sponsoring such ordinance and or resolution.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to amend ordinance number 99, 2012, create a new section 123.03C.
Correct.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All in favor? Oh, you all said that, you said that, did you? Okay.
I
Thank you.
move that we pass and post ordinance number 99, 2012 according to law.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Darrow?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Mulner?
Yes.
Ordinance number 99-2012 passes. Moving on to resolution number 4, 2013.
I'd like to offer resolution 4-2013 for its second and third reading by title only, please.
Okay, 1 second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
A resolution submitting the question of, you said, you did say second and third?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I thought, okay. A resolution submitting the question of a renewal of an existing 1 mil tax levy for the purpose of fire protection services and payment of permanent full-time firemen pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Sections 5705.19I and 5705.191 and declaring an emergency.
And what's your pleasure?
I move that we pass and post resolution 4-2013 according to law.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Darrow?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Before I vote, I just want to point out to everybody in the audience and anyone who may be listening or watching on television that this is not a new tax. This is only a renewal. It is dedicated entirely to the fire department. It is for, and if we do not renew this levy, and we've been renewing this levy for 30 years, I suppose, it's going to mean that we're going to have, the fire department is going to lose $400,000. So this is a very important piece of legislation. My vote is yes, but we need to start talking to the citizens so that they know that this is a renewal. We are not increasing your taxes, but we are guaranteeing that you'll continue to live in a city that has does have the very best fire department in this area, and it's not only fire, it's EMS, and we all know how important that is. So I vote yes.
Mr. Martin?
I'd just like to reiterate what Dave says. Voters need to approve this levy because that way you'll continue to enjoy the same protection you've received from our fire department, and it allows our EMS to continue to serve you in the exceptional manner that they have. Yes.
Mr. Miller?
It's important to note that this is a levy for our firefighters, not our firemen. Firemen start fires. Our firefighters put them out. They save lives. For 8 years, I've been trying to get the language corrected. I vote yes.
Mr. Mulner?
Yes.
Resolution number 4-2013 passes. Tomorrow morning, it'll be headed down to the Board of Elections. Just an interesting point of view. Taxes cost you money, but our firemen save you money. How do they save you money? Because they have such a good rating, your fire insurance is less in Macedonia. So it's kind of like offsetting. Moving on to ordinance number 5-2013.
I'd like to offer ordinance number 5-2013 for its second reading by title only.
An ordinance amending Macedonia Recreation Center membership fee for improvement and maintenance of equipment.
Just want to point out there will be a Recreation Committee meeting Wednesday at the Rec Center at 7 p.m. to discuss, among other things, the provisions of this ordinance. Everyone is welcome to attend.
Moving on to ordinance number 6-2013.
I'd like to offer ordinance 6-2013 for its second reading by title only.
An ordinance amending the Business Regulation Code by adding new chapter 794 entitled Hotel and Motel Security and Safety.
Next is ordinance number 7-2013.
I'd like to offer for its second reading ordinance number 7, 2013, for its second reading.
An ordinance providing for the submission of the electors of the City of Macedonia proposed amendment to sections 401, 402, 303B1, 401, 408, 409, 410, 609, 705, 806, 905, 1004, 1102, 1204, 1306, 1307, 1402 of the Charter of the City, restoring the number of councilmen to 6, restoring the mayor's vote to break ties and related sections affected thereby.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to point out that what this ordinance does, it allows more people to participate in our city government. It also gives the mayor an opportunity to be involved in legislation, which the mayor, being the head of the city, should have that opportunity.
Moving on to resolution number 8, 2013.
I'd like to offer Resolution 8, 2013 for its first, second, and third reading by title only, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
A resolution confirming the appointment by the mayor of Jessica Becker to the position of full-time dispatcher.
And what's your pleasure?
I move we pass and post Resolution 8, 2013 according to law.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Barker?
Yes.
Ms. Darrow?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Mulner?
Yes.
Resolution number 8, 2013 passes. Jessica's here tonight with her family. Jessica, would you please stand up? I hate to put you on the spot. You know, Jessica comes from a family of dispatchers, huh? Tell us a little bit about your mom.
Well, my mom, Sonia, she started dispatching here in Macedonia. She also dispatched full-time in Broadview Heights, and now she is currently the Chief's Administrative Assistant here.
Well, you are one very talented person, so I think it's in the genes. Could you introduce the rest of your family?
Yes. This is my good friend Jamie and Brian.
Hi.
My stepdad Ernie and my uncle Mike.
Good job. You're very good at what you're doing. We're very lucky to have you. Welcome to the family.
I want to also thank the mayor and council for this opportunity. I was born and raised here in Macedonia, so it's a pleasure to work for the city.
Excellent. Next is ordinance number 9-2013.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer ordinance number 9, 2013 for first reading by title only.
An ordinance authorizing directing for the advertisement for bids for an electronic fingerprint time clock for use by city employees and creating section 161041 of the codified ordinances relating to the use thereof.
Moving on to ordinance number 10-2013.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to offer ordinance number 10, 2013, for its first reading by title only.
An ordinance amending section 12102 of the codified ordinances of the City of Macedonia adopting rules and regulations for the videotaping of council meetings.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to make a brief comment. A resident commented earlier about this ordinance and quite obviously didn't understand it for the reason that the United States Congress, the Ohio State Legislature, and every other legislative body regulates the videotaping, the taping of meetings. And this ordinance differs very little, if any, from any of them. And the thing to remember here is the resident presented this argument, so to speak, that the purpose of this ordinance is to prohibit or to somehow inhibit videotaping or audio recording. And that is simply not the case. This ordinance follows what other communities in Ohio have done and are doing, as well as what our Ohio State Legislature is doing, and even our Congress. So in that sense, all we're really doing is codifying what has already been approved by our state legislature and by other communities. And what we're doing is we are taking this through first reading so we can get comment, make changes, and come up with a good ordinance that will very much allow people to videotape and make audio recordings of our meetings, but at the same time, we'll make sure that they'll be able to do it in a fashion so we conduct our meetings in an orderly fashion and that there's no interference with those who are attending the meetings and who are not videotaping or recording. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. All right, are there any other motions or legislative actions this evening?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to extend the Longwood Manor House deadline for providing paperwork in order to not only to protect the city from for unforeseen problems at this point, and our building department and our park recreation department, and also to give them the time that they need to at their change of use from residential to potentially public use of the building.
Ms. Arcisi, since we, I think this was an ordinance that we did last year. Do we need another ordinance to extend it, or can it be done just by motion?
I don't know. The ordinance sundowns at the end of February. I could probably pull that number. I could, if you want, if Mr. Miller would like to cite the number, and then you could ratify it later, or however.
You know, what I would much prefer, Mark, is that
I could pull
perhaps
it
you research this issue and come up with a specific piece of legislation, because I noticed when Mr. Miller made his motion, he just said he wanted an extension. He didn't mention a specific number of months. So Mike, if you could just be a little bit patient, I'll let the law department take a look at it. We can come up with a piece of written legislation that you can present to council. Would that be okay?
That sounds wonderful.
Thank you. So Mr. Miller, then I understand you're withdrawing that motion then, and we will revisit it at the next meeting.
As long as our next meeting would not cause the extension to be expired.
I don't think that's the case.
End of February.
It's
2 more meetings. Yeah.
pardon me, it's the last, it's actually March 1st, but the month ends February 28th.
Yeah.
I can pull that ordinance and get it to you.
So Mark, if you can present that to us at our next council meeting, I would much appreciate it. Thank you.
And if you'd also change the language to say firefighter instead of fireman.
Oh, that's...
Firemen put coal in the engine and they start fires. But firefighters normally don't start fires.
Language. It's, oh, however, it's code language.
Are there any other motions or legislative actions this evening?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the finance director to reopen the fund. And I think we need to rename it for Macedonia Family Days 2013. Been a lot of conversation. Last year we all sat down, we talked about putting this back into play, and here we are. So
second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Are we going to put an amount in there?
I was getting there.
Okay.
I want to be real careful when we talk about this because, you know, obviously we hope to recoup a lot of the funds. Not guaranteed, we hope, but not guaranteed. The amount that we worked off of last year, I believe, was around $50,000. So we hope to get a lot of that money back, but I want to point out something that happened last year. The mayor and I were attending the, Angela, help me on this, the movie in the park. And I gotta tell you, I have not felt that good about our town in a long, long time. There had to be 2,000 people there.
At least.
Happy, smiling, community. That's what I want back. That's the Macedonia I remember. It'd be great for the Manor House for people to see it, point out all the things that we want to work on. I think it's nothing but good stuff.
Do you think that it's late to 24th, I believe? Is we going to be able to get the ride vendors set up, or should we possibly earmark this for 2014 and go ahead and maybe expand the party in the movie in the park to include some different things and maybe more fireworks this year to ramp up to, so we can have, because I know that there's an issue with getting ride vendors in certain dates of the year.
There are, and I've been talking with Nick periodically about this in the recent past. I did make it clear to him we are very, very, very late in the game for planning purposes for 2013. Anything is possible. We have talked to several ride vendors. There is only one with any availability that will fit our calendar around Barnabas, around Twins Days, around the other activities that are already scheduled in the surrounding communities. That weekend is June 6th. That would be the only opportunity for 2013. I did also point out to Nick, which he just mentioned, and I want to reiterate, at this point in the game, recouping revenue in the form of sponsorship dollars, donations from companies is not going to be, guaranteed, not going to be very likely. A lot of that money is already allocated by those companies for this year. I did make the suggestion to allocate money and start planning for 2014 and do something along the lines of fireworks. That was a suggestion I made to Nick. Nick is very adamant about getting his community days back. So anything is possible, and I'm willing to work with whatever your wishes are.
Well,
but I wanted to make those points.
I think Nick is right in getting it. We've been talking about this for years and years and years, and we never make a decision. I'm perfectly okay with committing the resources to do it if it's going to be done properly. If we commit resource, maybe Scott can answer this question. If we commit the resources now, and I know that next year is a completely different budget year, can we do that this year and say those funds would only be used next year, and we use a portion of them for a bigger movie in the park, if that would be something we all would agree to do?
Yes, absolutely. And
so it doesn't have to be spent this year.
Right.
But I think we need to make a commitment one way or another.
Yeah, and we do have that fund established. It hasn't gone away. It's just there's nothing in there. So even though
Scott,
Mr. Molnar said
we want to rename that and start a new one.
Okay.
That fund needs to dissolve, however we need to do that.
Well, there's nothing in there. We dissolved that. That had...
we need to abolish that fund because there was a lot of controversy around the name of that fund. So let's get rid of it.
We can rename it whatever you choose.
And I'd also like to point out that in 2012, this council committed to having the home days. We said, wait a minute, pump the brakes, let's do it next year. Well, here we are, folks.
Nick, I agree that we need to do this. And when it used to be called, was it Home Days? And before that it was Fun Fest. I was on the committee. And it was a lot of work, but I thought it was great, and it was successful, but I wish it could have been more successful. But I also know that at least one or two of those years, it was my job to try to negotiate with the ride vendors, and we're starting too late. And I appreciate the fact that we said we were going to start it in 2013, but if council needs to take some type of an action to say it's going to start so that we don't have this again, and I don't like to have false starts, then we need to do that. But I think we're too late in the ballgame. I think what we need to do is maybe we need to have a work session. We have to get Angela involved, get the building parks people involved, come up with a set date for 2014, and assign the responsibility of who's going to negotiate with the rides, who's going to negotiate with the vendors. One of the things that I thought was the great thing about Fun Fest and Home Days is that we got a lot of community groups involved who could use it for fundraising. So they were able to make money for their organization, but also provide services, sell refreshments, or have games or things like that. And so, I pledge to work to help to get this going, but I really think we need to start with a work session, get these things hammered out, what we're going to do, what is our goal, what is our strategy, and let's do it. So I think if we say 2014, somebody here says we're going to have a work session this day and we're going to start the process, that's what I think the goal should be.
I think it's a great point, Dave, but we said this last year too, so.
I understand.
My point is, hold on.
Okay.
My point is this, Angela and I have been talking about this, we talked to it a lot last year. I know in October and November we were talking about it. Obviously, until she has committed funds, she can't do anything. Last year we took away $8,000 for fireworks. I want to make sure she has the money to do it. I think she can tackle the challenge, and I think she'll be successful. I think.
How much are you asking for? You're asking us to establish the fund, which everybody agrees we'll establish the fund. But are you asking us to fund the fund right now? And if you're asking for $50,000, I think you're gonna at least say, we gotta have bring that to the finance committee to discuss it. I understand.
I want to point out, we had that fund last year too, where we were going to commit the same amount of money. This is nothing new that we haven't talked about. This is something that we have been committed to. This entire council sitting here committed last year that we would do this in 2013.
We understand that, but we're just starting the fund or the planning process for this year's budget, and if you want to put it into the budget when we start having budget meetings, and I apologize because of my personal problems, we're several weeks behind, but we'll get started.
That's a good point, Dave, but in 2012, we committed to it, so it's not like this is anything new.
I agree.
It's not a matter of, oh, let's just do it, throw some cash in the pot.
Well,
we committed in 2012.
How much money are you asking for are you asking for tonight?
Based on what our estimation is, it's 50,000. Do we recoup some of that? I'm sure. All of it, I don't know. She doesn't know. We don't have a crystal ball.
No, we have to be willing to say that this is money that we're willing to spend on that, whether we get it back or not. But maybe we can make some type of compromise. So you said that the movie in the park was what I guess my thought was to expand on that this year as kind of a ramping up to what we would do next year. But I think we need to commit, open the fund and fund it. But I think until we know that we have a little bit more planning involved, I just think that might make a little more sense. And if we ramp up with something late in the summer, early fall, like we did last year, that might be a way to go.
Are you going to have a committee, or are you going to have some employee be in charge of this, or a volunteer group? What's your plan? To coin a phrase, what is your plan?
Again, I would definitely work with Angela. She knows I'm committed to this. Whatever we would sit down and come to decide what would be best to plan this going forward. I think in the past when we talked, we felt that it would be best run by city employees. If we needed help and we wanted to form a committee, we could do that as well.
$50,000 is too much to commit for a fireworks show and some carnival rides at this time. I would have a hard time pushing that. A more reasonable figure would certainly be a lot easier to support.
Well, the reason behind a lot of that is you have to pay things up front that you do recoup. We're not doing this to make a profit. We're doing this to have a sense of community, which, I mean, look around, guys. You ever go to Bedford? They have a party every weekend and the whole town is there. We don't have any of that. That's what this is trying to bring back.
They have a town square too.
We have a square, a rectangle, and an octagon.
We don't
use any of it.
We don't have a place to put that kind of stuff on unless you had it at the park all the time. They have a committed group of people that have a long record of success. We need to start that, but at 50 grand though might be too much. Anybody agree or disagree?
I agree with you, Mike. I mean, when Fun Fest was then involved in Home Days, and I understand both of those names are controversial now, but I think it was about 25,000, and I think we usually got close to 25,000. All of a sudden now to double the ante, double down, so to speak, I'm not prepared to do that.
Well, we had a group that was committed and worked at it. I venture to say year-round.
Right, we started in October probably. And by this time, we had all the contracts done. You've got, there's lead time, and I understand that Angela doesn't want to commit until council has the money available, and I'm willing to do that, but I'm not willing to do it this year because we've started, it's too late. If we sit down and if council is involved, we oversee this and we make sure this thing moves along in a orderly fashion and that we have the contracts in order, yeah, then I'm willing to fund it and take the risk because I think it's a goal that's worthwhile, but I'm not going to take the risk without proper organization.
And was there a second? Excuse me. Was there a second?
Oh, yes, there was a second. I just don't.
Okay, can we call the question, please?
I just have one more comment, Ken.
Sure.
Dave and Nick, does our Recreation Commission have a stated goal and do they have a commitment to work this?
We've got a meeting on Wednesday. We have talked about this on and off, but the meeting Wednesday was more for the fee at the rec center. I'm sure we can certainly add that to it.
To your agenda? And maybe get
Let
back to
me
it.
ask you something. Obviously, I know you can't even answer this, but if they're committed, if they can say they can do June 7th, they may get booked next week, and then we'd be out of luck.
Correct.
So you would need to call them tomorrow and say, hey, and probably give them some what do you call it, money up front or something. I can't.
As soon as
Sign a
possible, we
contract.
would need
Yes.
to
You
sign a
have to sign the
contract
contract.
to lock into those dates. And as far as
Earnestly.
the amount of money that's being discussed, I just wanted to point out that also, when I was asked for figures last year, I was asked to include personnel costs, including overtime for service and police. Those figures were not accounted for in past budgets because they were absorbed by the city out of the general fund. So those monies were included in our overall budget for a total true cost to put on a 3-4 day festival.
Can we just call the question? Because
Sure.
if we appropriate the money and we can't do it, then it's not spent anyway. If we can't, so, but I think we should give the opportunity. I just want to call the question at this point.
Is 50,000 the figure though, Nick?
Yes.
And you want the sum in the motion, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We have a motion and we have a second. All in favor?
Well, how about I do a roll? Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Barker?
Yes, but I want to make sure that once we start down this path, we can do it, and if not, we can still back up, yes.
Well, we can't back up if we sign the contract once it's done.
That's not what I meant. I guess I meant that, like Ken said, if we don't do it, yes.
Ms. Darrow?
I'm gonna have to go no, because I don't know what our finances are going into next year.
Mr. Engel?
It's irresponsible to start committing $50,000 when we have not even begun to discuss our budget for 2013. I understand that this is something that many of us, and I would like to bring it back, I really would. And we need to be better planned. This is like trying to run a D-Day invasion next week and you haven't been planning for 2 or 3 years. It's just not going to work, so I'm going to vote no.
Mr. Martin?
It's reckless.
Did you say this was June 7th?
Sixth.
June
I
6th,
believe
and
it's
it's a
6th through the
Thursday.
9th.
It's June 6th? How
Which is
unusual.
D-Day.
Yeah, June 6th was D-Day, 1944. How ironic. I'll vote yes.
Angela, that's Thursday, right? Because I looked on the calendar here and it says Thursday.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
It's the whole
Okay,
weekend.
so it would start on Thursday?
Their contract would include their setup, so, I mean, we would obviously have to negotiate the days of the actual event.
All right, yeah, well, it starts Thursday's the 6th, so.
Mr. Miller?
In the past, I felt that the home days was too early, and it should have been later on in the year in August. We don't have enough planning. The idea is good, the plan is bad. I vote no.
Mr. Mueller?
I think the word irresponsible is totally wrong, because again, I want to point out that this was discussed in 2012. It was put off in 2012. Here we are in 2013. I'm a man of my word. I said I would vote for it. Everyone here said they would vote for it. Now we see the division. We have been planning, we have been talking about the amounts. This is nothing new. I've been working with Angela the whole time. So my vote's yes.
Okay, Mayor.
What's the date? Is it January
Here.
1st,
Here. Here,
2014?
I'll help you. Let me get out of it. Yes, here, wait, let me get you to there.
This is a monetary thing. This has to do with the finances of the city. The administration makes things happen. Council holds the purse strings. Them's the rules. I think council needs to make the decision as to whether to commit for this money or not the administration. The administration has department heads that say, this isn't possible, we only have one ride company we can go to, we can't bargain, we can't do anything else, we've got to sign this contract immediately, and we're within 1 week of being the same weekend as St. Barnabas. Will that affect things?
Yes.
I think, Nick, that you know how I feel about Macedonia because you and I were the only ones there when we had our fireworks. I'd love to see something done again this year. But last year, council committed to fireworks and didn't fund it. And we had a big problem. So anything we do before we go any further, council must decide to fund it, not the mayor. I don't believe I should be breaking any ties on this vote.
So you have no, you're not
No
involved? Okay.
Do
Not
you want to
involved.
vote present then?
If he abstains, it goes into the yes, right?
Well, he's not entertaining, he's not
No
abstaining.
vote.
He has the ability not to vote, and then it's back to, it's all back to you. He's basically saying you have to go back into the playroom and play.
Well, then we should take ordinance 7-2013 off the agenda. I mean, that's, you want to be part of that. You spoke last week about being, you were okay with being a tiebreaker, but.
This is a,
That's what we.
Yeah, I agree with you, Shane. Good comment.
Yeah, I thought about that during the discussion.
Well, let's put it this way. When it comes to legislative actions, that's one thing. Because legislative actions are gone over to a great extent by our law department. They're gone over by a great extent by us, by staff, by council. This is a motion popped on us, on me, at last minute, and I'm asked to make a decision without knowing all of the factors or if that financial amount will be committed to it. Last year, council said, go ahead, shoot the fireworks off. Oh, but by the way, we didn't legislate money for it. So we ended up scraping and trying to find that money. I'm not going to get into that again. I'm saying this is a motion. This is not legislation. In some important things like the State Route 82 bridge, nobody made a motion and decided that at one meeting. That went on for months.
Sounds like a no, though.
I mean, it is legislation and motions we're talking about, so I think, this is part of the legislative process, Mayor.
Ms. Sarcisi, and I would like to inform council that I'm going to withdraw my support of ordinance number 7-2013 and ask that be withdrawn from the agenda.
Well, I remember actually, the mayor told me a story about Mayor Miglerini, correct me if I'm wrong, that one time there was a tie, and Mayor Miglerini thought that it was like I certainly feel that it's council's thing, and he made them go discuss it until they had, was that correct?
that is
Correct.
But that was what, the issue in that case was the next mayor. So,
I suppose that's
the
a
council's job was to decide that.
And it still took a long time.
It did. So, since we're at a tie then, Mr. Law Director, what do we do? We just
Nothing.
move forward?
Nothing.
nothing.
Okay.
Nothing's going to happen on it.
All right. So is our next motion, Mr. Martin's motion to withdraw ordinance 13 or whatever it was?
7. What's a 7?
Is that your motion?
That's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
What this actually does is it shows the direct need, I guess, in such a way for a separation of powers from council who legislates and the administrator who administrates. So you want to withdraw that motion? I never said that, oh no, we got to have that motion. I said there's pros and cons. The pros are that in every major project this city's doing, the mayor broke the tie. The cons are you need a separation between legislative and administrative, and that is important to achieve the balance that we need to operate an efficient city. That's my thoughts. So if you would like to withdraw that legislation, believe me, I'm fine with it.
I'm actually okay with discussing it, but that, I mean, that makes my point right there, is that if there was only 5 of us up here, you would have been put in that lousy position, and we put you in a bad position. You had to be the party pooper. I don't think that's appropriate for the mayor. I think that is exactly why we want that. You would have never, if there was 5 of us up, if I was gone, and I will be next year, you wouldn't have had to make that decision.
Yep.
I firmly believe in that.
That's why I asked if it was January 1st, 2014 yet.
Oh,
Because
that's right.
then it would be over. So
You're quicker than
this
I-
is a good example for us to remember as we move forward to talk about legislation that's there, and the fact that 5 council people with the council president running the meeting with the council president, I'm fine with that, okay? But also, I want the ability to administrate without council saying, well, Mayor, you have to hire this person, which could actually happen now. And I don't know if that's right, because the mayor is the one who has to live with the choice as the head administrator of this city. Just some thoughts. It's a debate. It's not an argument, fellas.
No, this is why, this is great. This is why we do this. This is, had discussion, and everybody here hears it. And I think that that's maybe, I think that we should discuss this and vote on it next week. I'm totally okay with that.
Could I just, for clarification purposes, relative to ordinance 7,
Yes, ma'am.
did Mr. Martin withdraw, want it removed from the agenda?
Yes, I did. Mr. Engel, second.
I did.
Okay. And are we ready for a roll call on that?
Well,
I am.
I am.
Yep.
Yes.
Roll call.
Okay. Mr. Barker?
Not to be slow, but this is, I thought he was withdrawing his vote on the 50,000. This is to take ordinance 723 off the agenda.
Yes.
That is my knowledge.
My vote is yes, ma'am.
Ms. Darrow?
Yes.
Mr. Engel?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
I guess I could have done it the other way. Mr. Mulner?
Absolutely.
Are there any other motions or legislative actions this evening? Hearing none, let's move on to correspondence to the clerk.
I just have one, sir. And I'll probably mess up their names, and I don't mean to, but Sam Somes and Sandra Mihalik. Chief, did I say that correctly? Do you know? Doesn't matter, you're seeing blank. This letter is in regards to a rescue squad that was called to my home on Saturday, December 15th. I would like to extend my sincere appreciation for the professional and caring manner in which the following squad handled my husband in this time of distress: Joe Natale, Dave Aberth, Jim Crevar, Doug Brasnovich, and the responding Macedonia police officer, Hedrick. My husband Sam has been having serious problems since July, and he has been transported to the Cleveland Clinic in Twinsburg, where he had gone on numerous occasions. If it wasn't for the squad members' instinct, they would have treated him at the clinic and sent him home like they've done in the past. However, your squad sent the decision to take him at Hillcrest ultimately saved his life. After surgery with a stent, the cardiologist made this comment, that if he would have been sent home again, he would have it would have been his last ride. So thank you again. This was a great Christmas present. You're all wonderful angels. And I believe, are they owners of the Dolphin Family Restaurant?
Yes.
Okay. And again, I apologize for messing up the name on there.
All right. Next is the mayor's report, and I'll try and keep it brief tonight. We are still moving forward with the reclassification of State Route 8 to allow right-in, right-out entrance by the Great Escape and the crossings. The entrance there would improve things for both the businesses and for the shoppers in that shopping center. It would not only increase business and convenience, but also safety. Many of you remember how much chaos occurred there because of the water main break months ago. Some shoppers were actually trapped in the shopping center. So that's kind of helping me sell this job that it's a safety issue. So we're close.
Keep up the good work.
You betcha. Changes made on northbound 271 ramp on 82, if everybody knows where that's at, have reduced the accidents in the area from 42 in 8 months in 2013 prior to the change to 0 in the 4 months since the change. More and more people have redirected their paths to accommodate this change, and I personally thank you for your effort. It's definitely paying off. Progress is still being made in Phase 3 construction on Route 82 scheduled for 2014. It's unbelievable how much time and energy has gone into every one of our major infrastructure projects. Meetings relating to engineering of all the separate little pieces of the projects require meeting after meeting after meeting. It's never just one meeting. Changes to make the project better or safer or more efficient are constantly being addressed. As you go under the Route 82 Railroad Bridge or over the Highland Road Bridge soon, it's a lot easier just to enjoy the improvement as it is rather than what it takes to actually make it happen. There's so much more to it than just cement and steel to repairing major infrastructure. Remember that it is also very good for the city financially as the bridges are being built and the roads widen and all of that happening because all of the people working on those projects pay city income tax. Over the last 4 years, while the bridges were being built, the city's revenues were bolstered. During those projects, well, there's pluses and minuses. The minuses, that's easy, the delays, traffic, but the pluses will be felt for years as getting through Macedonia will be easier than it ever was. And your city services were given a shot in the arm from the extra revenue brought in by the construction workers. My office has been contacted for anticipated construction projects in locations such as the area behind the Girl Scouts building and also at Faith Fellowship Church. Whenever that happens, there's a rigorous path through the city's building department, the planning commission, and council long before authorization to clear a lot is given. This isn't done to give somebody a hard time. It's done on the behalf of the existing residents and the new residents who are going to be buying those homes. They better be built right. You got to protect all of our investments, and the more thorough the city is, the better of quality of life for everyone involved. I'm still pursuing citywide Wi-Fi and will be having meetings concerning the feasibility of doing that. As has been suggested, my staff's been coming up with various plans for promoting city beautification. I really look forward to seeing this become a reality as the budget process for this year goes on. We are slowly evolving. Maybe you noticed electric snowflakes on Route 82 during the holidays. This year there were 10. Maybe next year there will be 20. These are the type of little things that make people feel good and make them proud to say they live in Macedonia. We have some new mowers on order that will make us more able to keep our parks in a pristine condition as possible. There are some very good people that try to do more for this city than just their job description calls for. They are proud of what they do, and they are always trying to do it better. If we can find a way to make it happen, stay in budget, it's a win-win for all of us. Moving on to committee reports. Are there any committee reports tonight?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to make one comment that was made. I want to make one comment regarding a assertion made by a resident that was not accurate. And this involves the rezoned property on South Park Drive. It was stated that a deal was cut in secret and that somehow the residents had no input, and that somehow this deal that was cut is against the best interests of the citizens of Macedonia because it may allow structures there that are not a benefit to the city or the neighborhood. Quite frankly, this was the result of court litigation. And what happened is that the city entered into a judgment entry. In other words, this was litigated. And anybody who wanted to join this lawsuit, which was forced upon the city by the developer, they could have joined at that time. And what happened was the court held that the property cannot be developed as an R1 district because of the surrounding commercial zoning, the I-271 freeway, the existence of power lines and a railroad line. And then they held, too, that the R1 zoning did not advance legitimate government interest, and the court ordered the property to be rezoned to R2. Now, the court also reduced the allowable density for the residential units, and it also was able, because of the cost of the lawsuit, the city was given $50,000 for litigation cost and restitution. And the point is that the city was sued. It was forced into a judgment entry or constructing a judgment entry, and this was done in public, in an open court. Anybody had an opportunity to join this lawsuit, and really the impetus for this lawsuit was a case called Shimo versus Mayfield Village, in which the city of Mayfield Village denied a developer the legitimate use of property, and Mayfield Village, Mayfield Heights, ended up paying well over $1 million in damages and litigation fees. So what I'm pointing out here is that it's all fine and good to come to City Council and talk about actions that the city is taking or that are being reviewed by the Planning Commission, but to misunderstand, misstate, and not be accurate when you're describing what took place because of just lack of knowledge or lack of researching the issue properly, that doesn't benefit our residents, and it certainly doesn't benefit the persons who are trying to do a good job here, because we work very, very hard to maintain the correct architectural and building standards in this city. I know Mike Ladd works very hard. I know Dennis Sachs works very hard. The mayor's concerned about it. And there's just an awful lot of work that goes on here, Mayor, that people tend to ignore and then they misstate. But believe you me, I would ask the resident who raised this issue to review the case of Shimo versus Mayfield Village and take a good look at it.
Mr. Martin, if I may,
Sure.
I found out late yesterday that a copy, it was in the newsletter, a newsletter article was dated from July 26th of 2006, detailing the city's challenge at that time. So the residents were aware in 2006 from the newsletter.
Of course they were.
Okay,
and
so I wasn't
to,
on council at
Sure.
the time, but I received this late yesterday because Josephine was working on some stuff for me. With me being on planning, I had a feeling some things were going to be coming up, and I wanted to be prepared.
Yeah, and I mean, just to point out, you know, Dave Ingo always laughs at me when I say this, but I'm the only city councilman in this city to be sued personally for $1.2 million, personally, because I refused a developer's request to put mini warehouses next to the high school. And that case went to the Supreme Court, and your law office, counselor, won. You prevailed. That's how high we took it to the Supreme Court. So to somehow insist that this city isn't interested in protecting people's rights or property owners' rights or the city's rights, it's just not accurate at all.
Thank you. Today, that was a good explanation because it was a problem that had existed in that neighborhood for years, and it was finally resolved by the court. And actually, it cost us the money to defend the city and the residents. So also, I had my first meeting today with Redwood Acquisition LLC. They're the people that are talking about building in that vicinity. And, you know, I remember very, very well being worried to death about rented facilities until I found out that there's whole bunches of homes in Macedonia that are rented. There's people living in rented houses all throughout our community. You still have concerns because, you know, what kind of people will it draw? Are we going to have a rise in crime? All of these things are a stigma that's associated with renting, yet we have rental homes in Macedonia right now. The only thing that I can tell you at this point in time is that Redwood Acquisition LLC will be put through the test. It won't be just swept through and say, okay, but they cannot be turned away by law. And the zoning that is there cannot be changed. So we have to entertain their proposal. I'm going to pass this around council, and I'd be willing to share it with anyone after the meeting. They have some pictures, some renditions of the homes that they built. The homes are not cheap. They're very, very well built. They're expensive. And this particular company is an investment company. It's a portfolio company. So they have many of these developments, and they're growing all the time. Who knows? Maybe this is going to be what happens in the future, and that's all that'll be available. In fact, today I asked them, do you have any mayors living in any of your developments? Because it's one floor, no maintenance. They have people, you buy the light bulb, they'll come out and put it in for you. But what kind of residents would move in there? I'd say $1,300 a month is pretty steep, and that's probably what they go for. So don't judge them just yet until you see, and let the city investigate, and let us come up with, well, this could work, and it could be very beneficial, or no dice. And we will be thorough, as I said in my mayor's report. All right.
Mr. Mayor, I would like to
Yes.
say something.
Yes.
That, you know, people talk about renters, and I would like to say that I rented a house, 1202 Shepherd Hills Boulevard, from 2005 to 2010 with my 2 children, and I was a very good renter, and I didn't even see my landlord. I was such a good renter. I took such good care of that property. I love Macedonia, and I love raising my children here, and I hear so many things about people talking about renters, and I think it's wrong. I've even gotten emails about renters, and it's just wrong to me. And I'm grateful that I was able to rent a house with my 2 children and continue to keep them in the Nerdonia school system. Thank you.
Mayor, I believe that in that court ruling was $50,000 for sidewalks to run to the high school, or for the city to use the money as it deemed necessary. That ain't a bad deal.
Well, there were concessions made. Not only that, the amount, I believe, in Mayfield was 13 million.
Yeah, it was not a million, it was a lots of million.
Lots of millions. Let me open
The
this
city had
up.
to pay that.
At any rate, moving on.
Committee reports still.
Committee reports.
The rec commission will meeting Wednesday, next Wednesday. I'm not real sure on the date on that. Is it February 2nd, maybe?
Wednesday?
The 30th, I believe.
January 30th at night at 7 o'clock.
All right. Sure.
Okay, thank you.
All right, could you make some copies for council? It'll be coming before planning. This is just the preliminary, but
You
that
want me to
gives
do
you
it
an
now?
idea. You could, yeah,
No.
after the meeting.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, moving on now with department reports, starting with you, Jim.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. Just a couple. I'm going to keep this brief. The future game room for the seniors,
Here it is.
Yes.
you should have it ready by the end of February. Got some painting to do and some walls to put up, but it should be ready by the end of February.
You know, we have more and more people coming in there, Jim. I made a couple of appointments for that room, not only for seniors, there's ARP appointments, but for the garden club. So I think it's going to see a lot of use. I think Tim's going to talk about some more things for down there. I'm glad you're getting it done.
Yeah, it'll get done.
Good.
And one final note, whenever you're calling, and this is for all the residents, or council, anybody, whenever you're calling City Hall or the service department, and you have concerns, mailboxes or rubbish pickup, would you please leave your name, your address, and your phone number? It's the only way we can help. We get a lot of calls and they give us the explanation and they don't tell us anything. So we would appreciate you to do that, and then we'll be able to help you. Okay, that's it.
Okay, very good, Jim. All right, Mike?
Thanks, Mayor. Council received a packet today, the 2012 building summary. It includes our revenues, includes our inspections. It also includes, if you look through it, all the new businesses. And I did include GPD's fees for the year, and I broke down what the city pays and what is paid by a developer or a permit. And then I also broke down the ODOT projects that are separate than city engineering services. For example, Route 82 Phase 3, it's an ODOT project, it's not a city engineer project, as well as the I-271 interchange modification study that was given to URS. There's a breakdown of capital improvements from 2012, and at the end of the package, we have all of the rentals. Some of them were quite extensive problems, and I have pictures of all of them that we are getting cleaned up. So,
Thanks, Mike, for doing that.
Mike, could you give me answer a couple of quick questions?
Sure.
Is there going to be a chance for the public to hear about the Phase 3 widening of 82?
Yes.
Oh, it's in the
February,
calendar, sir.
there's going to be a letter mailed out to all residents. It's going to be February the 13th at 5 o'clock,
Between 5 and 7.
between 5 and 7.
Right here.
So residents can come and ask questions
Absolutely.
and get informed.
Yes.
I have a question. Is it going to be 3 lanes or 5 lanes?
It's going to be 3 lanes to Shepherd Road, and the interchange is going to be modified with drainage, and it's going to be a little bit safer in that area, and then it's going to be maintained 2 lanes from Shepherd Road to the Twinsburg Court.
All right, now whose decision was it to reduce the number of lanes from the original 5 lanes?
Well, Mo Darwish came in here and had a public meeting with you guys and explained that they did a complete traffic study and explained at that point that it had to go to 3 lanes due to the amount of traffic.
Or
They
lack
couldn't-
thereof.
Exactly, they couldn't justify the 5 lanes, and ODOT would not pay for, since most of this project is federally funded, they would not pay for anything that was not
So
necessity.
those of us that think that should not be reduced we can go there and talk and be told, too bad, or it's their decision has already been made, it's final.
They could give you the actual numbers and the statistics on why it's not going to go to 5.
Well, I remember that they said because Chrysler was closed down, but now people are buying land in Chrysler, and that might be developed and have in fact more people. They also said that the closure or the completion of the 271 and Route 8 interchange caused more people to pass by Macedonia.
That's correct.
So the decision's pretty much final, and for those people who call me and complain about the road being not as widened as far, or as expanded as much, I can just tell them the deal's done. It's
right. I mean, the traffic numbers don't lie. It's an extensive study. It's not something that's done overnight or 1 week. It's an extensive study that they use, and they also take planning efforts with future growth in account.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, thank you. Angela.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of announcements. Our annual Nordonia Hills Community Health Fair is scheduled for Saturday, February 2nd from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Recreation Center. This is the second year we're hosting this. We have all of the key players, Cleveland Clinic, SUMA, Western Reserve, Akron Children's. There'll be free screenings, chair massages, fitness assessments. This is free to the public, so I encourage everybody to come out and attend that event on that date, which is, again, February 2nd. The second thing, I just want to make an announcement for everyone to watch your mailboxes. As part of our 2013 marketing strategy, we're trying some new things with the Recreation Department. So we do have our first wave of mailers that were just sent out to about 2,500 residents, and that's good for a 5-day free pass to come try the rec center. So you want to make sure you don't miss that if you are not a member already. Thank you.
Angela, are you going to have the farmers market again this year?
We are planning on doing that, yes.
Great.
Which would start summer.
Okay.
Very good. Scott.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. With the December financial report, I'll just go over briefly the highlights. Good news is we did have an all funds increase, unexpended balance of $67,676 more than last year. Last year we started with $6,208,000, and we ended this year with $6,276,000. So, and that's on top of spending, as I reported earlier, over $1.4 million in capital improvements alone. The report for December, period 12 for Rita, shows we're $232,000 above the 2011 collections for the same period in 2011. We collected $739,000, and that was the third highest month for collections in 2012. The income tax overall was the highest since 2005, with a total collected for, and again, this is with the rec center increase that goes over there, $7,817,337. So also notable, some of the increased revenues this year. Mission fees were $194,000, motel tax $95,000. Prisoner housing reimbursement was over $134,000 just from the amount of traffic that we've had on the mayor's court, and also from the community contracts that our chief was able to get with our surrounding communities, housing their prisoners as well. Our EMS fees did extremely well as usual, $270,000, and a portion of that goes to our fair fund. The rec center membership, again, over $500,000 in paid memberships, $523,000. So that alone is accounts for over 50% of the rec center revenue that's collected. So I'm happy to report we did have a great year. We spent a lot of money as far as needed improvements that were done. I'll have a better detailed report. We're scheduled to have a Thursday finance meeting, and we'll go into other discussions as we go for the 2013 budget. That's it.
Good job.
Scott, does the money from the JED, Joint Economic Development District, go into the general fund, or is it earmarked for anything in particular?
General fund, sir. About $184,000, I believe, we split Well, we didn't split, that was our share, so Northfield Center then also received that same amount of money.
And that's basically what do we provide services to the JED that take away some of that money? Or
We
is that
do,
all
but before
profit?
that, those JED expenses, we do pay for the electric, but then we settle up with Northfield Center at those JED meetings. So if we spend any money as far as legal fees, if we have a question that we have to consult with legal or do any kind of maintenance down there, that money's taken out while it's in the JED fund, and then we disperse that money to each of us, split the money half, 50%.
Okay, so it goes in the general fund, and there's no special way, or that we use it, we use it to pay our
Right,
bills.
it's not earmarked for any purpose. Yes, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Tim.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have some senior programming. It'll be coming out in the Messenger. So anybody interested in the senior center, we're going to be offering some programming. So take a look at the February Messenger, and there'll be some details in there. That's it.
Just so people know that the fire department and the senior program are going to be hand in hand with the operating of it. The fire department has been doing a lot for the seniors right along over the years. The fire department right now has a program where they call the seniors in the morning. A lot of the seniors know the firemen because unfortunately as a senior you do need more attention as far as EMS and so forth. So it's going to be very much a combination of the fire department and personnel to correlate with Tim and his staff as to how this will be run. So thank you for taking on that responsibility.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right. Okay, Vince Yakupovich, our lieutenant, is here tonight instead of John.
The only thing I have, Mayor, is to thank council for confirming your appointment of Jessica. You know, Jessica comes to us with some dispatching experience, so she'll be a valuable asset to our department, so we're happy to have her on board. That's all.
Very good. Mark, do you have anything for us?
Nothing, Mayor.
All right, we'll move on to any unfinished business, new business. If not, we're going to go into executive session, folks, for the purpose of discussing matters relating to personnel. After the executive session, we will reconvene, but only to adjourn. So basically, the meeting will be over now. May I have a roll call, please, for
Well,
executive?
I do need a motion.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session for personnel issues.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Barker,
Yes.
Ms. Darrow,
Yes.
Mr. Engel,
Yes.
Mr. Martin,
Yes.
Mr. Miller,
Yes.
Mr. Molnar.
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming. We'll see you next time.